Hello and welcome to Secrets Mystery Manor. I'm your host, Psychic Zelda Kelly. Warning: this podcast may contain sensitive material. It is intended for mature audiences only. Viewer and listening discretion is advised. Hello everyone and welcome to Secrets Mystery Manor. Woo, I got a good one for you tonight. But before we get started, I would like to thank Psychic Secrets for giving us this platform, and I would like to thank them for the opportunity to be an advisor with them and also allowing me to bring you these stories and much more content. So without further ado, if you do not like this paranormal, if you get scared, if you don't like the squeamish things, this is intended for mature audiences. So now's the time to click off. But for those of you who love it, this is the story. Now, this is a true story. I know this to be true. I know the people involved. And here we go. So there was a young lady, and I'm just going to say that her name was Mary. Mary was dating a married man and had been dating a married man for about a year. Now, he kept promising her that he would leave. He kept telling her that it was just a matter of finances, or that he had to do something with his wife or his children, or whatever the case may be. I don't believe he ever intended to leave his wife and his family, but I don't know. I can't judge that. So Mary became obsessed. She would not let him alone. She would not leave him alone. And finally he broke it off and said, because you cannot just wait and because you're just really flipping out constantly, because she then started threatening to tell his wife. And that turned the battle. That did it. So he said, it's over. I can't do this anymore. If you can't wait, I'm not going to do this anymore. She then turned her obsession to a Ouija board. Now, I don't know how you feel about them. I don't like it. I won't use them. I had a bad experience with it years ago, and I just don't feel that that is something that I want to do. But to each his own, okay? So she became obsessed with using a Ouija board. She did not know where to turn. She tried to turn to some practitioners that would cast something, anything, on him to make him come back to her. Well, this wasn't working because, there is free will involved. And so then it got a little darker. So then she started using this Ouija board constantly. Like, she would come home from work, use it for 4 to 5 hours a night, got hardly any rest, would get up early in the morning before work, and then she was taking it to work with her and using it on her lunch hour. Her family became very, very concerned because obviously there was something else there, and there most likely was an attachment from what they said. They told me that if you walked into her home, you could smell sulfur, you could smell just bad, the air would feel bad. Now, she didn't smell this, and they said that it was not rotting food or anything else, that many times family would go over there and they would search the home, search whatever, seeing if any system was backing up, and nothing was wrong, but she couldn't smell it. And as time went on, Mary's looks started to change. She became very gaunt, very pale. Her eyes were sunken, darkened circles, bad. Her teeth started getting bad. These are all signs of a possession or an entity being around that should not be. You see, they are the energy suckers out and then will come out in full force. They suck the energy completely out of you. That's how they function. That's how they are capable and able of hanging around. They need that. So they used her, would give her whatever answers that she needed so she would continue to use that Ouija board. She opened a portal, and that was not good. Then came the time she started losing weight. And then she started obsessing again with this man. The family actually went to the man and asked him to help, and he refused because he said, I'm not going to, do anything. I'm a married man. And he had left it with Mary a little open-ended, basically saying, look, if anything ever happens that I get divorced, you will be the first to know. I will contact you. Well, I think he should have just cut it off. And I know he was probably trying to be the kindest that he possibly could in that situation because he knew she was having a hard time and would have a hard time. So she kept looking for this door to open. So she would hire more practitioners to help her. And finally, she turned to the Ouija board and asked the Ouija board to do something with the wife, to cause an accident, to cause something else to happen. It was bad. And there were other family members around actually going with her because ultimately she lost her job. She couldn't handle her job anymore, and people started figuring out what she was doing. It was really quite scary. They came to me, they asked me what to do, and I said the first thing you're going to have to do is get that board away from her, but they could not. So things continued to go downhill. So she wanted the wife of this man to have an accident. So something would happen and he would be free and then come back to her. So little things started happening around the home. And her brother would go and stay with her, and he said it was horrible. At night he would see flashing lights, or there would be rapping. He would hear scratching in the walls. He would see dark figures moving from room to room, or he would see a dark figure move from one room and go into Mary's room, and she in there having a conversation with him. This is scary. When a possession happens like this gives me chills to even think about it. So now time has moved on, and she has now decided, one day she woke up and said, I'm not going to do this anymore. This is just taking too much out of me. I've got to pay my bills. I'm going to lose my house. The family was thrilled that she seemed like she came to her senses. But the next thing you know, she was out trying to get a job. And she saw the wife of the husband. She was trying to avoid this whole thing because evidently the wife knew. And they were in a parking lot at a grocery store. And before you know it, the wife was coming over to Mary to basically say, you've got to leave my husband alone. You've got to stop calling. And she said, Mary said, I'm not calling. I haven't been calling in a long time. And she said, well, who is calling my house? There is someone with your voice that is leaving messages in my house. And they're scaring me. She said, the voices, you're threatening me, you're threatening my children. And she said, my husband is at his wit's end. We want to call the police. There's nothing they can do. And Mary said, I swear, I'm not calling. You can ask my brother. He's been staying with me. I have decided just to move on. Well, the wife looked really bewildered at this point because it was very evident that Mary was telling the truth. So the next thing you know, Mary decided that she was going to just pull out of the parking lot, go around, leave the store, So she would wait until the wife left. Before you know it, Mary said she lost control of the car. She lost control of all her faculties, just lost control. She said it felt like someone else was driving the car. And as she turned around the corner again, she said she could not steer it. It was impossible. She tried to put on the brake. And the next thing you know, the wife was walking toward her car, and Mary said the accelerator stuck and she hit the wife. And you can imagine she did not live. The sad part is that Mary was charged with manslaughter and is now doing time, and still swears, and her family swears, that she was possessed and that the car was possessed and everything else was going on, and it was not a good time. Mary will not get out for a long time, and every day is a regret. Now you can imagine the house is no longer hers, it was sold. The Ouija board was taken and disposed of properly. And to this day, that house has been on the market for sale many, many times over. People buy it. They say they can't stand to live there. The smells, the scratching. They've tried to have a paranormal team come in and clear it out, but it won't happen. And that's what's going on. That's a true story. I know the family that this happened with, and it's very unfortunate. So that's sometimes what happens when you play around with these things and you want something to happen. It actually turns against you. And that's the very sad part for Mary and her family. So I wanted to share that with you. Thank you so much. I have chills tonight telling that story because it's true, and I know these people, and that is so sad for them. And I know that you feel for that too, because I bet you if you're listening to this, you've tried to use the Ouija board at least one time. If you haven't, I'm grateful that you have not. But if you tried to use it, please be thoughtful. Please think before you do. So thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of the Ouija Board and the Mistress. And I'll be back again next week with another spine-tingling, chilly, scary, bothersome story. But in the meantime, you have a wonderful week. And I appreciate you listening to Secrets Mystery Manor. And thanks, Psychic Secrets. And I'll see you again next time. Bye for now. Until next time, thanks so much for listening. I just love this. Don't you?